So hi everybody, thank you for being there so late scheduled today after a long day. Hopefully it won't be long. So we had to speak about building an open source ecosystem for the energy industry with the project called LF Energy SEAPATH. We are a much younger project than AGL, but there were a lot of things that has been told in the present presentation that's could be a foresee for us. So my name is Christophe Villemer, and oh my gosh, I didn't realize how difficult it was to shorten ideas in 10 minutes. So good luck. First of all, maybe giving you a bit of context about the SEAPATH project. SEAPATH aims to modernize the grid. The grid, the electricity grid, is like a mesh network, and today it's really challenged by a lot of impact, especially of the energy transition. And at the node of this grid networks, the mesh network, there is what we call the substation, and these substations are really managing what's happening in the grid. And the idea behind the SEAPATH project was to actually make an inspiration from what the telco industry have done 10 years ago with the 5G, was really to put virtualization into this node, into this substation, in order to replace physical hardware with software function. So at the beginning, the real goal of the LF Energy SEAPATH was to develop a reference design, industrial-grade, open-source, real-time platform. It was not to build a new hypervisor. It was really a platform on that part. But the role was to virtualize automation and protection application. This software, automation and protection software, are really the core application that are managing the grid and protecting the grid, to avoid especially what's happened in Spain, a couple of weeks ago. And because it's critical infrastructure, this has to combine performance and safety. And the other one was also to share in a way to cut the vendor locking the utilities can have with all the vendors, having a multi-provider application software where we can host application from a lot of vendors, and also which was hardware agnostic. So SEAPATH, as I said, was not a new hypervisor. It was really a platform which was best of breed platform constructed with aggregating a duly selected open source software. So the project is under the Linux Foundation Energy. It's now at the early adoption stage. The official V1 was released in January this year. And it's in production today in France. And to give you an idea of what it is in the real life, this is a substation. This is a building where inside the building you have a rack, and inside the rack on the hardware you have a SEAPATH running on that. So the story behind SEAPATH was really at the beginning the result of a collaboration between two major European electricity players, Alliander in Netherlands and RTE in France, and open source expertise brought by Savoir-faire Linux. And fun fact, the story was actually we met RTE for the first time at the Open Source Summit Europe in Lyon in 2019. That's where we met, and they came with this idea of having this virtualization software to run the grid, but they had no expertise. They came from the industry in open source. And we didn't have any expertise in the energy industry at this time, but we knew quite well virtualization and open source, of course, and that's how we began the journey with there. So we started working with them in 2019, and the first version was, the beta version was released and open source at December 2020. But when this project was born, what next? And how we do create an ecosystem that is essential for the project evolution. So in a context where the energy sector is really transitioning, we have various players involved. the utilities, they will be the end users at the end of SEAPATH, but we'll have all the industry vendors. By that we mean, the big name, Schneider, GE Vernova, Siemens, ABB, name it, the big players. We also have hardware manufacturers, because, as I said, it's hardware agnostic, so they will need to use industrial server, industrial hardware, and of course tech company that will provide services, that will provide new function, new software that will run also on SEAPATH. And all that in a complex environment where, because of the energy transition, we have a lot of challenges of all these kind of players. First of all, utilities are generally conservative industry. They were used to work in silos. They now begin to work together, but this is a constraint on that. There is also a market issue, especially for the vendors, that there is a long time to market. Even if for RTE, it's now in production, RTE is a pioneer. They start with the project, they are way advanced on the market, but for all the major other utilities, this kind of solution, because it's critical infrastructure, won't go into production before 2030. Some of them announce 2035. So it's a long journey for vendors to invest on a product that there won't be a market on a short time. And this all in the economic uncertainty that you all know. And also for the vendors, there is a huge change of business model for them. The GE, the Siemens, they were used to sell hardware, and now they will have to sell software. So it's challenged a lot the way they work. And most of them are new in open source. So the step one was really to build trust and credibility about the project. The project has to work, the project has to show the performance. So the first involvement of the project and the first funding of the project to make sure the first year it drives the expectation of the market was funded by National Grid, which decided to open a POC in the UK and RTE in France. And National Grid worked with GE Vernova to develop some part, and we worked with RTE, but also because of actually also the same kind of aspect that was mentioned before, the difficulty for industry to contribute directly to open source. GE Vernova asked us to contribute our name. The complementary skills of OT and IT was crucial. The fact that we come from open source, we come from the IT, but National Grid, RTE, they come from the OT. They know the energy sector, but they don't know about open source. So these complementary skills was really key on that. Also, of course, a common will to make it work. Good day, bad day, in the fact that we have to make choice on the project, we have to make choice on some part of the architecture. Especially the utility, they have their own view, but us at Savoir-faire Linux, we have to keep up the view of the project, keep the project first, and sometimes it has to take some decision together. But at the overall, we have to have a real convergence of interest of all these actors to make sure that it will come. And when I speak about convergence of interest, it's a question also of building a business model for everybody. The utilities will need to have a solution that works, and the market will need to have a solution that works with SEAPATH. So the step two, when the project was, in a good shape, running, first POC working, it was to attract and add new players on the ecosystem. So first of all was to promote the project and its results, getting to conference, exhibition, fair, energy fair, and open source conference to get traction on this young project. Was also to have no barrier to entry. The TSC is open. It's really just come and see. We invite every people interested to come to see what's happening. And this creates a virtuous cycle in the fact that they see what the other is doing. In a way, you have competition around the table, but that's the way it works. And keeping the neutral governance was key also to make it worse for them to join. This ecosystem means a lot on the fact that bringing around the table on the project competitors like GE, Siemens, ABB, you need to have a strong neutral governance. Also applying the same rules for everybody, no privilege. Either you're Red Hat, you want to come, either you are Schneider, there are some rules to follow, the same for everybody. And create a maximum cross-interest in the fact that this is the goal of this kind of ecosystem in the LF Energy, having a business ecosystem around that, and in this maximum cross-interest in the fact that everybody needs to work together for that. One example is now we are in discussion to build a conformance program for hardware running SEAPATH, a bit like Kubernetes has on the website, making for the hardware company, having the conformance ready to make sure that their hardware are ready to run on SEAPATH. And now, 5 years later, we have a more diversified ecosystem, but for sure needs to be still consolidated. We have more utilities, RTE, Aliender, National Grid, Elia in Belgium, and the first one in North America, Hydro-Québec, shows interest in the project. We have almost all the vendors now around the table, GE Vernova, Schneider, ABB, Siemens. We begin to have hardware manufacturers that show a lot of interest, and also tech company. Red Hat joined the LF Energy last month and now joined the project, which is a great credibility for the project. And also some now smaller company, startup that do a lot of AI that will be able to run on SEAPATH for the management of the grid. So the idea is to create really a diversified ecosystem on the project. But overall, the strength of the SEAPATH ecosystem and project is really the fact that this is a utility-led open source-based transformation of the energy industry. The fact that the utilities are driving the show is important because this is the utilities that will be the end users that show the fact that what they want to do and to make on the project to be ready as a function and also as a driven. And especially RTE, which was the pioneer and the first one, and this is some words of Lucian Balea, who is also the chair of the LF Energy. But RTE was really a key actors on that, in the fact that this year they released a public RFP that says that if you want to work with RTE, if you want to sell your solution, you will need to be working on SEAPATH. So they have now an RFP running, a contract with Schneider and ABB, and they are testing their protection on SEAPATH, and the goal is also to have a lot of upstream contribution on that. And as soon as you have the end user that drives the show and says, we want to use this kind of technology, that of course that drives all the actors to make a lot of more of interest around that. I'm already over the 10 minutes, and thank you everybody. I will be there also until Thursday, if you have any question on the project or on the LF Energy. Thank you very much.